Why choose Kelly Chevrolet? We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade-in services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.
And welcome everybody to Around the Fort. We're in the cave. This is week 4 of the 2024 high school football season. I am Casey O'Boyle with Northeast Indiana Game Night, and we have a special guest down here tonight. I'll introduce here shortly. I'm joined, of course, by the Killer Jays. Jeff, remote. Jeff, welcome back.
Thanks, Casey. Always great to be back. A special week in week number 3. I can't wait to hear from our guest.
Absolutely. It'll be a lot of fun. The producer, the young pup himself, I told him I took the microphone away from him this week and muzzled him. Jackson, welcome back. He can't speak, but you can wave. Thumbs up. I got a thumbs up. Very nice. And then, of course, Jake the Snake Smith in his customary spot. Jake, welcome back.
Glad to be here. Jackson made fun of my age today. He's half my age, so if he doesn't speak, it's fine. It's what he deserves.
That makes me feel ancient. That makes me feel ancient. Before I introduce our guest, I got to do a quick shout out again to the Northern Illinois Huskies for their colossal upset last week of the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. I have a few thoughts there that I better not share about the Irish, but a great win. And of course, as everybody knows, Bishop Dwenger graduate Thomas Hammock is the head coach. Jordan Geely is an assistant coach. Jordan's the one that hooked me up with that helmet that Chandler Harness signed, a former Husky himself. So great win for that program. It's been, the buzz of college football all week long.
The hard way, Casey.
It is the hard way. And that's on this helmet as well as the Huskies on the front. Pretty neat little keepsake there. So congratulations to those guys. That's all I can say. Without further ado, we've got from Bishop Dwenger High School, the defensive coordinator, masterful performance last week by the Saints defense in that 14-6 win over Northside. Coach Dan Knepper. Thank you, Coach.
No, thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
Well, we're excited to have you down here.
Yeah.
I'll just start off. Let's talk a little bit about the Northside game specifically, that first half. I mean, they brought in Caleb Kingley. Is that right? It's not Italian, right, Jeff? I want to say Kinjali. It's fragile, but I can't do that. It's Italian. He came into the game leading the area and rushing and just tearing up people, including a good Lawrence North defense the week before, and you guys completely stymied him. I assume that was the game plan going in, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they pounded it inside with him, and they looked to get outside with the quarterback. So it was kind of just, nothing in the interior. I thought we did a great job up front, defensive line. Really, after week 1, we kind of challenged them to get it all starts up front, just that relentless pursuit, that low fire off, and just thought they did a phenomenal job in that regard. Again, Northside, that's a good back. It's a good line. It's a good quarterback, good team. So,
yes,
it's a great challenge.
It was a great challenge, but you guys dominated the first half up 14-0 at the break, and it looked like Northside was going to have to do something special to come back. You talked about that defensive line, Gunner McCarthy.
Yeah.
It earned a spot there. And then,
Absolutely.
Of course, Pelk.
Yeah, Nick Pelkington,
and then Tommy Pori. What a game he had.
Yeah,
with
glad to have Tommy
QB
back.
So those three guys really set the tone, I think, for your defense. But also, it looks like you guys are showing a little bit more of a 4-man front. Is that in anticipation maybe with seeing more running teams in the postseason perhaps, or is that just what your personnel speaks to?
No, we're always trying to look ahead, right, to the playoffs and that time of the year. So we want to win every game, but the most important games begin, with sectional. So teams are going to run counter, teams are going to run power. So we want to make sure we're getting disciplined and getting our gaps fitted right now. So yeah, we're still a 3-3 at heart with the personnel and the guys we have, but we have to break the stack a bit and give those different looks and just keep the same base rules and concepts, but be able to adapt to the teams we're playing. So flexible but rigid in the rules, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
one more quick follow-up. Jeff, hold on. It seems to me after the first couple of weeks that Northside, with the exception of a few times where containment broke, wasn't able to get to the edge like the previous two opponents. Is that because of some of those schematic changes defensively?
Yeah, so obviously we watched the film. We watched what they're looking to do. What do they want to do? They want to pound the ball inside with 22 or 5 or whatever number he wears week to week, and then 0 outside. I think it was it Lawrence North they played week 2?
Yes.
They had made a late adjustment with just kind of widening that outside pressure with the backer. So when they got to a certain formation and we knew what they were trying to do with 0. So we just kind of aligned in what we'd call an over out of what we're doing and just sent Tommy straight up to that angle, just to kind of keep him from getting outside.
Nice.
So the kids look into the hash. So it's simple adjustment, but you kind of look at a team and identify who they are and what they want to do. And understandably, they want to get 0 outside. So we wanted to take that away at all costs. And I would have let itself to some other things if they tried it, but fortunately they didn't, and it played to our favor.
Well, 0 is Tristan Newsom, folks, if you're wondering, the senior quarterback at Northside, and he is fast and very elusive and tough.
Fast.
Jeff, what do you got for Coach?
Yeah, Coach, looking at it, anytime a team outgains another team in total yardage. So in this game, Northside had 248 and Dwenger had 83 total yards. You would think, oh, Northside's going to win this game. But what were some of the key plays you felt for the Saints and maybe your defense that you guys were able to pull off the victory, even though it was a tough night for the offense to get going?
Yeah, it starts with turnovers. We created five turnovers. So anytime you get 5 turnovers, I think that's huge. That goes without saying. And then just the I guess the physical nature. Again, Northside's a physical good team, but we were just our pursuit to the ball, our flow to the ball. Those things add up. It's like that compound pounding. Something I was really proud of the guys was just, and it started with the Moeller game. It was how we played, like regardless of the score, just getting after it, understanding the assignment, and just kind of getting lost in just the game and what our responsibility is and how fast we play and how physical they play. So I think that stuff over time, when we got our defensive ends firing off the ball so fast that the guards going in the backfield, like that's gotta be hard. And it's just a testament to the kids buying in and their will. So the 5 turnovers for sure. I think that's anytime you can do that, you're going to set yourself up for success.
Yeah, the 2 muffs, if you will, or snafus.
Their special teams did a great job capitalizing
the short field for both. And it was 14-0, and that was kind of all she wrote. Snake.
So one thing I've always loved about you guys is your linebacking core, and year in and year out, no matter who is on the field, you guys always have just a lunch pail group of guys that are just great read and react, able to scrape down, make great tackles. Can you speak on your linebacking group this year and maybe a guy or two that you want to talk about?
Sure. I'll talk about all of them. Dylan Tittman, Jr., guy last year took his lumps. He was in our secondary a little bit, played some corner, some safety, and really committed himself. Brother Devin, I always remember Devin from the past. So just hardworking. He's been, the film, the study, that's where he really excels. Helped us a lot in the pass coverage game. He's our Sam backer, so he'll be more to the field. Just his understanding of the game. Doug Henry playing the will backer on the weak side. He kind of stepped into that Moeller game, in the offseason. He hadn't been working linebacker at all, but this guy's willingness to come into new positions and learn it and just take the coaching, be humble, and just the way they play. It's always like you said, the way they play. And then Pete Thiel and Casey Piper sharing reps with our Mike spot, which is a glorified defensive lineman, how we do it. And it's just the attitude and the energy they bring. And I guess I haven't had a group of linebackers that have been as committed to, not that anyone hasn't been, but the level of commitment these guys are bringing with just the attention to detail, the film study, and then just the overall way they play, man. It's setting
their
up
hair
to be
on
nice.
fire. I mean,
yes.
And you're right. It was the Moeller game. Maybe not so much of the Brownsburg game.
Right. Yeah. That was
a punch in the mouth.
A great team. And we learned a lot.
Great.
We learned a lot there.
Yes. Well, that's the old cliche.
You have to have those.
You learn
games.
more from a loss than you do from a win. And I believe that as a former coach myself. And I think it shows. And this team is progressing.
And Dylan had a rough one that week. And so credit to him for being accountable. I used a word with these guys like accountability. So
Mhm.
those first 2 weeks, it can be rough if you allow it, but what they've done mentally and just their response to it is, as a coach, man, you can't be any more proud or just you love it. It's great.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
difference there.
Folks, if you're just now tuning in, we have Bishop Dwenger, defensive coordinator, Dan Knepper, joining us down in the cave. Coach, let's flip to tomorrow night.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
this is a big one, obviously, against a very, very good Carroll Chargers team who opened up the season with 2 juggernauts like you guys did as well, with Hamilton Southeastern and Center Grove.
Yes,
and,
sir.
And Center Grove, I believe, last week went out and beat Trinity Catholic pretty handily, which is fairly telling. And that game was shortened for the Chargers 2 weeks ago, basically just a half a play. Let's make no bones about it. They've got a special quarterback, Iowa commit, Jimmy Sullivan. Ties to the program. His father was defensive coach, DB coach. Yeah, coached over there when you were playing, and this is he plays like a coach's kid.
Oh yeah,
and he's dynamite. At any rate, without giving away any trade secrets, is that the name of the game? Making sure he doesn't just have a monster performance.
Yeah, it's him. It's the whole scheme. I think the offensive coordinator over there, Papi
Giannis. Yep.
As far as being like a football nerd myself, I really respect what he does. It's this committed system. Like you almost know what to expect because they're so committed to it. But when you take his system and a quarterback like that and the skill guys they have, and they all buy in, like you see the results that they've had. So it's almost like a perfect storm for them, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And then as a coach, you love preparing for it because it's, again, we all do this because yes, it's for the kids and you get something deeper out of it. But as a football, it's a great challenge. It's a great program. That offense is, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to call plays, and then they've got the guys to execute it. So as a defense, we're ready for chomping at the bit. Like it's a great challenge. And that's what we try to encourage with the guys is to, yes, we know who he is. Yes, we know who they are, but who are we now? This is the barometer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they've got awesome weapons in the passing game. The tight end Brady Road, of course, Jaden Van Pelt, who's featured in this week's issue of Game Night in the Snake Page. Maybe one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the area, which is saying something. The Boffman kid. They're loaded there. Is this a pick or poison deal where you make sure Jimmy doesn't throw for big numbers, but he might get some running, or vice versa? Because that's the other component of this. Jimmy's rush.
Yeah, he's been running.
He's been running, and he's faster than he's been in the past and
big
stronger.
Strong kid, and good read.
That's so. Again, without telling your secrets here, if you have to pick one or the other, which one do you want to take away?
Philosophically, we love the ball in the quarterback's hand as long as possible, right? And we want to hit the quarterback, right? We want to get to the quarterback, whether he's having to pull it down because nobody's open, or if we have to pick, we want the ball in his hand running, if that makes sense.
Sure.
With those guys, you definitely don't want anything over the top because they'll take the shots. He's got the arm. He can make any throw on the field.
Yes.
Our objective is it's just always to punish and confuse the quarterback, punish and confuse the offensive line without confusing ourselves. So that's the game plan, right? Make 8 uncomfortable to the best we can. Like we always look at where the greatest opportunity for us is. And I think that's up front. I think we can win that battle. And then what they do best and what they're trying to do. And it's a great quarterback, great coach, and great skill players. Good all around, but we've got to take that away and limit that. Again, just, pre-snap reads and just, we got to bring some pressure, right? Keep them guessing in that regard. And, at that point, it's kind of like a gamble. That's right.
Like
we got to create.
Maybe win
have
special
to create
teams
turnovers. We have to create turnovers. That's our responsibility. And
Jeff, what do you got for Coach?
Well, Coach, last week you guys did such a great job of taking away the run against the area's top rusher. Heading into this week, do you feel confident when you're going into games where you have to shut down a rushing attack that the defensive backfield can go man up with wide receivers, or do you prefer to play more of a zone defense with the back end?
We prefer zone as much as possible. So philosophically, again, it's a 3 match. So it's zone that can quickly turn to match depending, or to man, depending on what these guys do. So we prefer zone. I prefer a deep safety. We can play some man. But again, the cover 3 scheme for me, it's kind of the best of both worlds. We know what teams are going to throw at us, and I know I can get 8 guys in the box quickly. So the reads from our safeties are paramount. Like if we have 2 good safeties, we're good. Mistakes show up faster, but when we're right, it's right, you know?
Absolutely. Jeff, we just got our first question from an anonymous source here. Keeping it on my phone for Dan from a credible source. It says, "Who's the best looking DC in town?"
Nah. you want me to answer that? I don't know.
I think we know the answer to this.
I'd have to. Who's asking? I don't know. It's probably that guy. Probably whoever's asking.
Yes, that was one Johnny Zolnick from Leo. Coach, thank you for tuning in. And he is a handsome man.
He is indeed.
For being honest, he's a very handsome man.
And a good coach.
As are you. And a good coach. As
fellow Saints as well. Good man.
That's
What's
right,
up, Coach?
That's right. Another fellow Saint. Jake, what do you got?
So one thing I wanted to ask was just, with the rich tradition and history of your program, what's a tradition or something that you really just absolutely love about calling the defense for Bishop Dwenger football?
Specifically about calling the defense, just again, the ability to be there on a game night, the traditions, celebrating mass with the team prior, whether you're home or on the road, that's obviously very special. But the game atmosphere, again, the overall tradition, Bishop Dwenger defense, I always feel like not a pressure, but an honor and an obligation. You think about the guys who Casey Kolkman and, Coach Watercutter and, Fred Tone. Dwenger has had a rich tradition always, but defense has always been one of those
former
things
defensive coordinators you're referencing there.
Yeah, former defensive coordinators and guys that just hard-nosed dudes that loved the game and were passionate about it. So following in those footsteps and, Coach Schwarzkopf, all these great coaches that have came through there. Like, I think just being in, a place of good, rich history as far as like other coaches and things like that. And just everybody you play, we always say this, like everyone is excited to play us for whatever reason. It's like you're getting everybody's best. So again, as a guy who likes a challenge and accepts everything that comes with that, it's great, man. You don't want it
any other way.
No, there's no duds on the schedule. It doesn't matter. You're getting everybody's best, and it's humbling and it's fun.
Well, let's talk a little bit, Dan, about your background as a player. Hold that up for us. Jeff, you'll get a kick out of this. Dan saw this hanging on the wall, and he's like, that was the year that I made the Fantastic 50. So
dude,
talk a little bit about that and just some memories from your high school playing days.
Yeah, that was the 2002 Coach Schwarzkopf's first season. After Coach Johns retired, I was a senior, and we had a good run, went to state that year after just a couple years of, 5 and 6, 6 and 5 seasons. And Coach came in and kind of gave the seniors the keys and said, where do you want to play? Where do you want to play? What number do you want? And I thought it was an interesting approach to leadership. And we just had a real hard-nosed defense. I mean, we had, Tyler Trappy, who still holds the single season sack record, 26, 25, something like that. Nick Murray, Joel Rogers, who's on the coaching staff with me, just some stout linebackers. And it was just a fun group, man. And I've always, growing up, I wanted to play at Dwenger, and I went through the 4 years there, and that last year was something that, again, you ask, things you like about Bishop Dwenger. It's like some of those things we did then, tradition-wise, the mask, buckling the straps on the bus, the tree, like those things that are still there. And then, as a father, I hope that my kids get to experience that, and having my boys with me on the sidelines now, being ball boys, and it's like
it's awesome.
It's something that's very special to me. And that was that was a great time. Like, you learn how to be a man from those coaches. Like, some of those coaches were, for me personally, very important in my life. And you know how that goes. You said you alluded to coaching and things, how you can be there for somebody when they need them. You just never know, man. So it's definitely been a special thing.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that particular honor. You said you didn't get a whole lot as far as postseason.
Yeah, no, we weren't.
Loves.
No, that was it. Again, playing opposite. I was the opposite defense end of Tyler. So
probably why.
He was all state, all conference, and with all due credit, man, he was incredible.
Yeah.
No one worked harder than him. So that was really cool for me, having I thought I was just a, kind of a good role player, and I was embracing my job, taking on the strong side. And
I'm sure
that was cool.
I
think my sons have that in their room. So it's,
that's cool.
It's funny. They went through a box in the attic once. They got my old helmet down and a picture from the state game. And it's just, like I didn't even know I had it until, they pulled it out, and then I come down here and see it. So it's pretty sweet.
Pretty fun. You can find about everything down here.
Yeah,
if you stay long enough.
this is neat. It's like a museum, like a high school football museum.
Yes. Well,
got some cool things.
Thank you. We've got, again, it's still a work in progress, but we've come a long way. The helmet collection, and
got the hockey game over there.
Well, a little bubble hockey. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
From Miracle. Coach, we've just got a handful of minutes left.
Yeah.
Why don't you share with our viewers, maybe in a nutshell, just your general philosophy as a defensive coordinator, if you had to sum it up in a few sentences?
Sure. Chaos in the A gaps, speed on the edge, and just discipline. So discipline is the word. I think every defensive coordinator might say that, and it's kind of like a buzz. Be disciplined, but like keeping the scheme simple, right? So we know where we break down. We know who we are. And I think I heard an old Steve Speck video over the winter. He was talking about pass coverage. It's an area we've been trying to improve in me as a coach. He talked about how they run basically one coverage. And, as a coach, you think all these different things and all these schemes you can do. And I've tried that, and we've been average at a lot of stuff. So being average at many things versus being great at one or two things. You look at certain programs that have been traditionally good, and it's usually just that commitment to simplicity. So if we're a 3-match team on the back end, it's like everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. They get better at the reads the more you rep it. And then you also know inherently how teams are going to want to try and attack you. So we work extra hard on the concepts that are designed to beat what we do, right? So when you talk about, playing more of a 4-man front and preparation for the playoffs, and, these Nobles of the world who are going to run, power in the counter and create extra gaps, just trying to prepare for that, and always trying to remember, like, again, when I was a player, why we were good. It's because the coaches made it simple, right? Sometimes as a coach, you want to get on the whiteboard and dream up all these schemes and get down the YouTube rabbit hole. But then you have to understand you're trying to convey this message to a group of young men. And the most important thing is that they're playing confident and they believe in themselves and they understand what they're doing.
And not guessing.
And then
improvising too much.
The more confident they are, the faster we play, then the more turnovers we're going to create. And it doesn't have to be so crazy and exotic. It's just they have to believe what they're doing to get the most out of it. So I guess the philosophy would be just fast, simple, and we really preach just that attitude and the way you play it. It's defense isn't nice,
Jeff, you got one more question for Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach, how well do you feel like the players are prepared heading into their freshman year and then on to JV and varsity, but to take your defensive philosophy and to implement it? Obviously, the majority of your kids are coming from the CYO. So do they have a really good grasp of what Dwenger is trying to do defensively before they even get to school?
I can only answer it to the extent leading up to their freshman year. At least the last few years, I've tried to put out, kind of like a mini clinic online for them. And again, with that same philosophy of keeping it simple. So when they get to camp in July as a freshman or June as a freshman, that at least the language is there as far as what St. Charles or St. Vincent's or what those guys are coaching. I know some of those guys and we have conversations and they do it, but I don't know what the scheme is. But as far as can they take on a block and can they play man coverage and can they tackle well, they're always physically ready to go. They're always in love with the game of football. And I think that's the best starting point we can have is they come from the feeders, excited to be at Dwenger. And then our job is to make sure whatever we're teaching is easily digestible. And again, that same thing is confidence. They can get there not feeling like X and O to death, right? They can show up on the first day of camp and say, okay, this makes sense. Like keep the guy in front of me, have good footwork, tackle inside out, all those basic things that, yeah, they have a great foundation with being football players, being high energy, motivated, good dudes. And then again, I think our job then is to lay the groundwork to make it simple so they can be dudes who execute the scheme. Does that answer the question? I think they're always ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Coach, going with along those lines, Dwenger's always been known as a physically tough team. Have you guys tailored back the hitting in practice like a lot of the schools have?
That seems to be like a year by year thing. I remember in 2018, I was just a young coach coming up there, and I was kind of surprised they never really wore pads, but those guys every Friday night were ready to go. And then over the years, we've had groups that we kind of need to turn it up. And then, like, for example, this year, we had to scale it back because these guys were literally going to kill each other. Not because they didn't like each other, but this is one of the years we've had the most depth I can remember. And just something about these sophomore and this junior class and the seniors, it's a smaller class, but I mean, these guys are hungry. We had to pull it back a little bit. We went into this summer, just may the best man win. Physicality matters. And, Coach Garrett will support what we need as a defense. But I think we got to, after that Moeller week, we had to sit down and have a conversation like, all right, there's no doubt that these guys are dudes. They're tough. Then we saw them show up against, we had a little lighter practice the week of Northside. And I, as a coach, wonder, like, is it going to cost us in the physicality department? And they did not miss a beat as far as that goes. So yeah, we tailor it back. We got to stay healthy. Got to be responsible.
You got to save some hits for Friday night.
Yeah, they want these guys are a different group, man. In a good way. They all want it so bad. They're not going to let up on each other. And we give them the talk of that iron sharpens iron. And we're not here to make each other anything but better. And they took that to heart. So
nice.
Depends on the group. Yeah,
very nice. Well, we're going to wrap this up. I just make one general comment, Coach. I left the Carroll scrimmage feeling different about this team than I had the last several years from that scrimmage. It just, like, from a physical standpoint, I could see it, especially on the defensive side, but offense too. I mean, guys were going to the whistle, much more physical. So I want to concur with what you were saying. I think this is a different Bishop Dwenger football team. Yep. All right, folks. This was Bishop Dwenger, defensive coordinator, Dan Knepper, down in the cave. I'm going to run him upstairs real quick. We'll see if Archie wants to join us, and I'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
White Shoes Kelly Chevrolet. We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape, and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.
Welcome back, Jake. Just you and I here for Around the Fort. This is episode number 42 in year number 3. But, man, Jake, I don't know about you, but watching Dwenger's game this past Friday, Coach was right. Those guys were flying around. They looked like one of the faster Dwenger teams that you will see, and they were extremely physical, and I believe that's what won them the game last Friday.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, buddy. I went back and rewatched the game on none other than Summit City Sports. Whoa, holy cow, this dog. We got another Dwenger linebacker tryout down here. Holy cow. But no, it was really great to see just the tenacity that you've talked about for so long and that we've seen for so long from Dwenger. Man, just the back 7, back 8 players just getting nasty. And I have always been a big fan of their that 3-3 stack they kind of have, but seeing them go to that 4-man front was nice, and it showed on the field, man. They did a great job of shutting down the run like we talked about. And yeah, just you feel really good about Dwenger football this year and really excited for the back half of the season for them.
Boy, and I don't know that you could have said that a week ago, Casey, but the Saints really showed out on Friday.
Yeah, well, I think I did say it a week ago, actually, if I remember correctly. The Swami did have Bishop Dwenger win that game, and maybe my 2 cohorts didn't. But that being said, Northside sure did dominate statistically. But you could tell watching that game, guys, that as long as Dwenger didn't totally malfunction, they were going to win that game when it was 14-zip at half. And they had an opportunity to maybe go up 17-0 in the third quarter. Coach opted to go for it. It didn't work out, but again, with the exception of that big pass play, the 64-yard pass play, Northside didn't do a whole lot. And Tristan Newsom was awesome, but it was too little too late, of course. And yeah, the defense is fantastic. This is a different monster, though, this week. And we're going to talk about it here shortly when we delve deeper into that game, because Carroll is definitely a more versed offense and more disciplined, I think. And they've got the best quarterback in the area, maybe in the state. So
Agree with that.
let's jump in, Jeff. Speaking of, I think my printer up in Milford, Indiana, might have ran out of blue ink this week with that cover. Holy mackerel. That thing, you know, and it's funny because Carroll's one of their mantras or slogans is bleed blue, right? That thing bleeds blue. It's all over my car from delivering it. But what a cool cover. Taylor Howenstein came up with that, and I just thought it was fantastic. And Jimmy Football, I mean, need we say more? I mean, he's a special talent. He's had a heck of a career at Carroll, a lot more football to be played. And I'm excited to see how the rest of the year goes for him, and certainly at Iowa. I think he's going to play early for the Hawkeyes. Jeff, I'll let you take it from here. Any comments on that cover?
No, it's classic, you know, and he's a throwback player, so I think it fits him nicely. I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I was going back and I was looking at all the covers, and usually it's a lot of photos from the photo shoot. And even if you do one in particular guy, usually the photo takes up a majority of the screen. But what's present here is the Sullivan and the 8. That's what jumps out to you the most. And it just feels like a classic look. I really like it.
Yeah, thank you. I was impressed. It's not exactly what I had in mind, truthfully. But when I saw it the other night, I was like, wow, this is cool. And the Sullivan with the 8 there reminds me of almost like a locker, like in an NFL locker room or something, is what it reminded me of. I don't know if that's what Taylor was going for, but it was really cool. Snake, your thoughts?
Yeah, same thing. It'll be really cool too. And you reprint that thing in black and gold. But those Iowa Hawkeyes, man, I think he'll play early out there. Why not? They don't have offense, so they should try that.
Yeah, for sure. And then player of the week at the top, Axton Best out at Bluffton, the young kid. What a game he had a week ago. And Jeff and I consulted this week, and we agreed it was between him and Daria Williams out at Bishop Luers, and I think his numbers were phenomenal. And that was the only game that the Swami missed this week. I just want to point that out. Not that I care much about the Swami.
Right.
But if I did.
Understood.
All right, let's get past there. There's a column there by the Swami, and again, we can talk more about that when we get to the center spread, Jeff. That's a breakdown of the 7 QBs, which was a fun piece. There's your boys.
Look at those guys.
Handsome fellas from Whitley.
Quick note about this group of dudes. This is my 9th or 10th year coaching. I've lost track, and that right there is the first group that I took all the way through from junior football. So,
special,
very special group. Obviously, Stratton Fuller in there, McIntosh, Barry, Brad Barry. There's a heck of a group of dudes there. It's a really cool photo.
Yeah, that was cool. I love some of the front shots of the rig of the fire truck. I think they turned out really cool. So that was pretty neat. And they got a big one this week too. We'll talk about it here in a moment. And then the play of the week, our sparkling play of the week, I thought was Heritage was in a dogfight a week ago, and they needed a pass play, and their 6'6" tight end Zeke Litchfield came up with a big play in that contest. Again, a lot of good options for play of the week. All right, let's dive in, Jeff. Let's see. Jake, I'm going to let you start. Carroll at BD. Give us 4 minutes if you would, Jackson. We talked a little bit with Coach Knepper. If the Saints defense can somehow keep that high-powered Carroll offense under wraps and contain, the Saints can win this game. They can hang around in this game. I worry about their offense, of course, but that defense was so good a week ago. What are your thoughts here?
Well, Coach said it, iron sharpens iron, and when you go and play 2 really, really tough out-of-conference teams, and you could say that for both these squads, you expect that when you get into, weeks 3, 4, and 5, you're already battle-tested. You've already seen some of the best that the Midwest has to offer, and both these teams went and did it. And so that's going to be very prevalent in the game. And it's very cool to hear different coordinators speaking so highly of each other and respecting each other's games. And I think this is the perfect matchup of offensive and defensive minds with Coach Poppy and the awesome spread that they run, and then how that's going to match up against a multifaceted Dwenger defense, which Coach talked about. It'll be interesting to see how quick they have to or don't have to get out of the 3-3 stack and go to the 4-man front. But I love the idea of zone coverages and being multifaceted to man. But zone is the base in this situation, to me, makes a lot of sense. The Chargers have weapons everywhere. And then you have a signal caller that's able to dish the ball to everybody and also run. So like Coach said, they hope they can keep the ball in Jimmy's hands and make him run. But, man, some of the guys that we're going to talk about a little bit later, especially in this receiving corps at Carroll, every week it seems like an argumental debate in the SAC of whether Northrop or Carroll has the best receiving corps. And I think that's going to be on display. So I think that for Bishop Dwenger, it's going to be that the back seven, the back end players have to show up. And then I think that Dwenger's offense could do some damage here. I love how they, like Coach said, even on the offensive side of the ball, one thing Dwenger does great is they keep it simple. And when you just run under center I formation and you can run some power and you can run some dive and stuff like that, let's just get some momentum, keep the game close, and use the clock to your advantage. And who knows, the Saints maybe in this one.
No doubt about it. And it's a little bit of a dichotomy what Northside does versus Carroll. But again, an elusive run capable quarterback like Tristan Newsom was a week ago for Northside. Carroll has that in spades, of course, with Jimmy Sullivan.
Yep.
But he can spin it as well. And those weapons on the perimeter, I think that's where you got to give Carroll a decided advantage. The Saints last week held Caleb, to virtually a stalemate. I think maybe like 13 yards, maybe on 9 carries or something like that in the first half. And I think 38 yards for the game, well below his area leading average. So dominating performance there. But again, this is a little different monster. Jeff, you got a quick thought before we move on?
I just like the physical nature of Dwenger's team, and I think that that's going to get at the offense of Carroll as well. And Carroll's defense, kudos to them for pitching the shutout last week against Southside. But I do think Dwenger's offense is going to be a little bit more productive this week than they were a week ago.
Well, we'll see. They're going to need to be, for sure. You don't want to fall behind too much in a game like this. And that offensive line, I think, from Carroll's pretty darn good. They got some big boys up front. And I think the Carroll linebackers don't get the credit they deserve. And I think this is an opportunity for those guys to shine and maybe make a statement. All right, let's get out of this one. Let's go Concordia at Northside. Jeff, you and I will tackle this one. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, with Concordia, a lot of good, bright spots heading into this game. They got 2 of the better receivers in the area. Do the Cadets looking at their 2 juniors, Jack Belschner, the other one being Avery Cook. But with Concordia, I believe they're going to be able to pass the ball. Rushing has not been easy for the Cadets this year, and I think Northside just gets back in this one. I don't think Leslie Woodson's going to be playing for the Legends this week. I think it's going to be more like week 5 or 6 when he's able to come back. But I think they have the pieces in place, and Caleb will get back on track. Newsom should have a big game, and hopefully we'll see Malik Moore back out there for Northside. But obviously the Legends a pretty big favorite in this one. I think maybe by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think this is a great get-well game for Northside. I mean, after last week's tough performance where, things just didn't work out for them in the first half, they had those 2 snafus on the punt team that ultimately cost them the game. And so, you got to work on special teams. Coach Johnson says, we work on it. I mean, make no mistake, they work at it. And now it needs to translate on to Friday night. So I expect them to be much better in that area. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Northside had a return or 2 in this one, especially with Jamari Pearson. You got to get him more touches. I mean, he's just too good of an athlete in space. And I like a lot what Tristan Newsom did last week. But I expect Caleb also, Kingley, to get going as well. They want that to be their identity, I think, offensively. So I look for them to pound him early on and really get after it. All right, the next one.
But that being said, Concordia's got a good team this year, and they'll make some waves in the postseason.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they've already got 2 more wins than they had a year ago, right? At 2-1. Right. And let's not forget, they were leading Snyder for a good chunk of, a quarter plus, I believe, a week ago. And then, of course, Snyder's depth and talent took over. But 6 turnovers will do that. Coach Manigault said, it's hard to win when you have 6 turnovers, 5 picks. And we joked last week, Jeff, about who would get the pick six. Neither of us said Landon Fry, right? Number 44 is the one that got it. Kudos to him. Swami dropped off a game night sweatshirt in Snyder colors.
Oh, nice.
So I'm very, the Swami's very considerate that way. And I'm still waiting on that picture from Landon on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, Bolton had 2 though, Jeff. I think that was your guy. He had 2 picks in that game. So we knew that was a possibility against that defense. But yeah, Concordia was hanging around for at least a quarter, if not more. So I'm excited to see them down the stretch. All right, let's get to the next one here, Jeff. Huntington North at Columbia City. I'm going to let you and Jake take this one. Jake, why don't you start with it?
Well, I think everybody could agree that the Vikings are a lot better team this year. They're starting to gel into the spread offense that they're running. The running game is improving. Depth on both sides of the ball looks much improved. Starting the season 2-1, things are looking up for the Vikings. I think you got to give the edge to the Eagles here. Obviously, when you look at prior games over the last few years, Columbia City has been able to handle their business. I think it's a little bit more of a test for the CC defense to see these different types of formations to get them prepared for, when Leo gets out of the shotgun, East Noble. But you got to take care of your business in this game. You can't overlook the Vikings. The one thing that the Eagles have going for them too is just that every year, as they buy into the ideology of the heavy run sets and the flex bone offense, you start to get a platoon of backs. And so the big thing we had last season was, you have Stratton Fuller as a go-to wide receiving option, and you have a quarterback in Grayson Bradbury that can get him the ball. But now you've got Faust opposite Fuller, who's another 6'2" pass catcher. That's definitely somebody to keep eyes on. The defense is improving for Columbia City for sure. And with these platoon of running backs, you're getting all sorts of people carrying the ball. And one shout out that I wanted to give is this in this senior class would be one Landon Adkins. I did share on my X account today a picture of him when he was a 4th grader, coaching him at JFL, and now the grown man that he's become. And this is a perfect type of player, real quick, that is so beautiful about high school football, where this kid was literally like 3rd in the depth chart as a wide receiver for us as a child, sticks with the program, becomes a freshman, and gets the opening touchdown of the season for us in the Northside Jamboree, and now is scoring touchdowns week in and week out at the slot back position. And that's a beautiful thing about high school football, and it's a great part of this game.
Great call out, Jake. 67 yards for that young man on 6 carries a week ago. Jeff, take it away.
Yeah, with Huntington North, struggling last week in the 28-16 loss to East Noble, had a hard time rushing the ball, just 1.7 yards per attempt. And I think in this game, that's what's going to show out is Coach Fox has had a lot of success at Columbia City the last few years. And I think that program's got built up to where they just simply have more depth than Huntington North in this one. When you're starting quarterback who had a good game for him, 10 of 23, 125 yards and a touchdown, but he's also one of your top tacklers on the team too. Against Columbia City, I just think that's going to be too much to ask for. But you got to like what Huntington North's been doing this year, turning it around in Coach Eschbach's 2nd season, I believe.
Yes, that's correct, Jeff. And you're talking about Tony Decker, correct?
Yes.
The quarterback at Huntington North. Yeah.
Yep.
And was really shut down running the ball. He's been awesome running it. And East Noble took him away last week offensively, especially on the ground. But remember, the Vikings were ahead 10-7 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that doesn't happen by accident. You're doing some good things if you're beating East Noble at halftime. So this is definitely one of the more improved teams in the area. All right, let's jump out and jump into South Adams at Heritage, an intriguing battle in the ACAC. Jeff, you and I are going to tackle this one. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, Heritage too big, too deep, but you got to love it. Casey, the 2 leading passers in the area are the starting quarterbacks in this game. Eli Tagulis with 676 yards passing, Titus Lehman with 549 yards passing and 6 touchdowns for South Adams. But Heritage, man, they are huge. They got a great receiver in Braden Walter. South Adams has a great receiver in Derek McKean. But one of the guys that looked awesome this past Friday for Heritage was Zeke Litchfield at 6'6", 225 pounds, catching touchdowns out there. I believe he led Heritage in receiving. Nyseer Martin did a nice job on the ground. And the only reason that game was close, because Heritage really did dominate Woodland last week, was just a couple of fumbles. And that's really not on Nyseer Martin at all. Those were great plays by Drew Fleet, getting his hand in there and knocking out the ball. But Mason Abbott, too, your guy, Casey, he is a stud at linebacker there for Heritage. He's one of the leading tacklers in the area with 38 tackles on the season. He averages 12.7 tackles a game.
Yeah, he's got 2 picks this year too, and Mason's done a great job, kind of first-year starter there in the middle at linebacker and really sticking his nose in there and making a lot of plays for the Patriots defense. This team's got a lot of weapons, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves with the AC game on the horizon, but I'm really impressed with Coach Hollinger and what he's done, taking the reins from Casey Kolkman. You talked a little bit about Zeke Litchfield, 7 receptions, 128 yards last week. That's kind of that breakout game that we were looking for, I think, from him, because Braden Walters, certainly getting a lot of attention. That gives that passing game another weapon. Eli Tagulis, my goodness, numbers are filthy. 18 of 24 last week, 276 yards, 2 TDs. And as you said, Jeff, leading the area. We'll talk about him here in a second on the center spread. And then Martin, I think, really complements what they want to do offensively. He runs really, really hard. Love that picture there by Adam Snyder, the cutout there, right dead center in the middle of the page. So they've got a lot of weapons on both sides of the ball. As long as they stay healthy and they keep improving, this is going to be a really good team come tournament time.
And like you said, Casey, up next for Heritage is Adams Central at Heritage. So you hope it's not one of those look-ahead games for Heritage.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a trap game. And in South Adams, last week, just didn't play particularly well. But they, like Coach Mosier told me, 16 first downs. So it's not like they didn't move the ball. They just couldn't close. They couldn't get, touchdowns when they needed it. They avoided a skunk with a touchdown late. They may be a year or two away, I think, from really being competitive in the upper echelon of the ACAC. But they still have a lot of pride down there in Bern. They played the game the right way. Coach Mosier certainly is one of our favorites. So they would love nothing more than to travel up to Monroeville and pull off an upset tomorrow night. All right, Jeff, let's jump out and get into the center. This was a fun piece here.
Yes.
The Gunslingers, Swami Super 7. I might chime in at the end with a thought or two, but I'll let you two talk about it. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Jeff.
What are we looking at the rankings right here as far as who's 1 and who's number 7?
Yeah, whatever you want to discuss. It could be, hopefully the visual, the design was so much fun. I think it's one of my favorite center spreads of all time in 27 years of doing this. But yeah, the content, the ranking, whatever you want to talk about, Jeff.
Yeah, no, first off, it's a great idea throwing this in the center, and a great year to do it too with what we've seen early on this season. One quarterback that we could talk about is the South Adams quarterback being on there, and Titus Lehman. So we don't see him 1 through 7, but all these quarterbacks are fantastic. Vance could be rising up that list very soon. Jimmy Sullivan, I think, is a clear-cut number 1. I think he's pretty much been there since his sophomore year 2 years ago. Braden Holbrook, I love it. It's a great collection. I'd probably switch around the rankings a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's more than fair. We purposely left out Calder Hefty and Tony Decker, who could have made this list for sure. They got plenty of love last week, and to me, this was more true quarterbacks only. Like, this is all these guys do. And Tristan Newsom is a guy we could have thrown on this list. Henry Jordan out of Bishop Dwenger. There's a lot of guys that could have made this list, including a couple more in the ACAC as well. The guy on our cover, Axton Best from Bluffton. I think he's an up-and-coming QB to keep an eye on. And then the young fella out at Adams Central, who I think is going to be a darn good one when it's all said and done. Snake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, loved this piece. To me, Sullivan clear-cut, head and shoulders above number 1 by 100 years. White at number 2, love that too. He fixes his accuracy a little bit and gets a little bit more into the game, more game reps. another blue chip right there. Holbrook and Callison, I love them both at 3 and 4. I think it could kind of go either way. Callison's been banged up, so Holbrook's been great. I think he's definitely a MAC level player. Would love to see him go somewhere that he can sling the rock around in a spread somewhere in Tuesday night MACtion games. And, you could argue the last 3 any way you want, but I think as far as these would be the same 7 players that I would put there, and you could just argue how they would go in that order, especially the last 3. Vance is definitely ascending, and it love to see Bradbury in there too. Obviously a 94-mile-an-hour baseball pitcher, probably going to go that route at the collegiate level, but he's been great for the Eagles, man.
Yeah, I'd love to see those guys play multiple sports, but Eli Tagulis, the numbers, 75% passer, 7 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, that again, and what I thought was really neat, and Swami wrote this, is a year ago, this is a kid that was a receiver, right?
Yep.
Stalk blocking and running routes.
Sure.
As Kobe Meyer was throwing and running all over the field for, 2+ years. So really cool to see a kid bide his time, play another position, even though he's quote unquote a quarterback, wait until his senior year and then come out of the gate 3 weeks in with numbers like that. I'm really happy for him.
And Casey, the only player that has a better QBR on this list than Eli Tagulis is Grayson Bradbury, who's got a 157 QBR and 7 touchdowns on the season.
And no picks, and he also has Stratton Fuller, which doesn't hurt.
So Geiger just alluded, I didn't see this, that Grayson Bradbury is committed to play baseball at Butler.
Oh, very nice. Yeah,
Nice.
Very nice. Bulldogs. That's
Butler
where my
Bulldogs.
son Dalton got his very first collegiate save, was down at Butler.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Very, very cool old baseball facility with a brick backdrop behind home plate. Very cool. Well, congratulations, Grayson. All right, let's get out of that. Thank you, Jeff. Let's talk a little bit about this next game, a featured matchup. Let's do about 3 minutes on this, Jackson, if you would. Jeff, you and I are going to take it. Lakeland at Garrett. You're welcome to chime in if you see something. Jeff, why don't you start?
Yeah, I think with this game right here, Lakeland's going to have to play a pretty flawless game. They don't have many turnovers on the season, just 2 interceptions for Holbrook coming into this one. But, with Garrett, they like to run the ball. Rubel does a great job for them, the starting running back. I feel like this is going to be Garrett's year to get that win against Lakeland, even though Lakeland is one of the hotter teams in that big division, has been. I just, for some reason, really like Garrett this season.
Well, I do too. And I think that, the question is, can Lakeland match Garrett's physicality in my mind, because Garrett is so physical this year. They're pretty big up front, and they really, like you said, Jeff, they want to mash. They want to pound you with that ground game. And just when you start bringing up a safety and crowding the line of scrimmage, that's when Calder Hefty will roll out and throw over top to somebody like the Skelly kid, who's got speed and is a two-way star for them. So I'm with you, but I also think this is a potential, I don't want to say trap game, but it is to a certain degree for Garrett. I mean, next week they've got East Side, and then 2 weeks from now they got West Noble. So their eyes are looking ahead a little bit, and I think people are sleeping a little bit on the Lakers. They've got a lot of weapons. Kian Arroyo is one of the best receivers in the area. We've talked a lot about Carson Mickham already this year. He was their lone representative on our PT40. They've got some parts. Now, can they match the physicality? If they do, Braden Holbrook has got the arm talent to will them to victory tomorrow night. So it'll be a fun one to watch. Jake, real quick.
Yeah, I think that this is obviously, in my opinion, as well, the game of the week. A lot on the line for both these programs. I think Holbrook will do what he needs to do when he needs to do it. But the one comment I will make, I think that's going to hurt the Lakers this year, is a lack of Sean Conley. That run game just isn't the same. I think it's still potent enough to get the job done, but I think it's a different matchup if you have a true number one back that can nose all those gaps, make things happen with his legs. And it's going to be a lot more on Holbrook's shoulders. I think he's up to the task. He's a heck of a quarterback, but it's going to be a great game.
Okay, that's fair. Let's go to the next one. Give me 3 minutes here, Jackson, if you would. And we're going to discuss Cherubusco at East Side. Jake, you and I will tackle this one. I'll let you go first.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is one of the best rivalries around. And you love it when, you're thinking only in professional and collegiate football that there's all sorts of stuff happening behind the scenes. we have no idea who's playing for these squads this week. There is so much smoke screen being thrown up from both these staffs about who's hurt and who's not hurt. I don't know who's playing running back. I don't know if either team has a quarterback, a punter, lineman. We don't know what's happening. I
think
love
Hunter
it.
Bianski, the big brother, the fisherman, might come back and suit up.
Yep, Bianski's coming back
tonight.
But
right?
the big question that everybody had on the Busco side was, is Iannaselli going to run the ball? We're hoping that he's healthy because I think that they're going to need him for sure. The thing about Busco's offense that has always intrigued me so much is their base offense and year to year is usually gun T. So they're running a wing T offense out of the shotgun, and they're multifaceted out of that. Now, I think this works to Busco's favor is this year with the personnel that they've had, they've gone back to an old school Delaware wing T, which is under center a lot more. And I think that will protect the football more, less fumbles. And Busco's going to have to do what we say so much for some of these smaller schools. They've got to manage the clock. They've got to make sure that they're holding the possessions and keep not a quick tempo. Let's make sure that we're snapping the ball with 5 to 8 seconds left on the play clock throughout the game. And then for Eastside, again, been a lot of smoke screens about who's hurt and who's not, but this is
kidding.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and I love it. This is what our great rivalries are.
Notably, Lincoln Carter.
Yeah. Notably, Lincoln Carter. Is he going to play? He has to play. He has to play in this game. I don't care what anybody says. But the Blazers coming off back-to-back losses. I don't know how long it's been since they've had not only back-to-back losses, but isn't it back-to-back shutouts?
Back-to-back shutouts. First time since the 2009 season.
That is
Snake,
crazy.
if you read your game night before you came over tonight, you would know the answer to that.
I read them in the evenings. I'm sorry. I was not prepared for that. I didn't know what the stat was. But
it's in there, my man.
But on paper, nothing against my homies down there at Busco. Eastside should handily win this game, especially if they come in healthy. It's just the Blazers have handled Busco as of late, and I think that it should be no different this year.
Right, and this is a game that I think both teams desperately want and need.
Yes.
And as much as winning is important, I think just getting both offenses going, doing something. If you have to move a tight end to a running back to a tackle the quarterback, so be it. You do what you got to do to get things done. And right now, both teams are a little beat up. And when you're at a small school, it's dominoes, right? One domino leads to another. So whoever can piecemeal, the deaf one, whoever can piecemeal a lineup together and move some chains early might have a shot. I agree with you, though. I think Eastside's got to be the favorite. All right, let's get out of that. The next page here, real quick, if you want to highlight any of those guys, I thought those were fun. Some fun artwork there with our senior spotlights. Speaking of Eastside, EJ Miller, a PT40 selection, really good football player. I like the picture of Joseph Seckel, defensive end for Bishop Dwenger. Camden Woods had to wear that hat, and I made him take probably 90% of his pictures without it. And he's like, "Can I wear the hat?" I'm like, "Yeah, put the hat on." And it looks great. So I'm glad he talked me into that. Preston Gibson doing a little dance there. And of course, Deontay Eskridge, the transfer from Bluffton, looking very studly. All right. Next page. Let's go to our favorite, one of our favorites, the Snake Eyes feature. Jake, this is your show. Go, man.
Man, so this is a great group right here. And, I'm going to start at the eyeballing and work my way up this week. So Jalen White, Bishop Lures, a lot of great comments all over social media about this guy. Not 100% sure if he might be a little bit banged up right now or not, but he is a little banged up.
Yeah, and I got confirmation from Coach Lindsay that I think it's a knee injury, but they might brace it. But they're several weeks off from having that conversation. But I would not be surprised if he suits up yet this year.
That's great. Great news for him because he is very long and very violent at the line of scrimmage, which is what you want. So he's got a small offer on the table right now, but there's going to be more coming to him. It's great to hear that maybe this isn't a long-term injury. That's something he can bounce back from. Going down Homestead way, love this tight end, and I've seen some more people talking about him online, and I think players starting to come into his own a little bit. So trying to get eyes on him as he progresses. He's only 6'1". So maybe tight end at a higher level may not be a spot that he ends up at, but learning quickly the fundamentals and techniques that he needs on the football field, and that's just going to help him as Karsh. I can't pronounce his last name, Casey.
Fichter.
I was going to say I thought it was Fichter, but I just want to make sure. Yeah, so great tight end there.
Great
and
hair.
Very good haircut for sure. And then the feature this week is one Jaden Van Pelt, wide receiver, who we had our eyes on early and figured that he would be one of the features this year, and getting to have a little text conversation with Coach Poppy at Carroll. Had nothing but great things to say. Expects tons more offers to roll in for this kid. You know, prototypical, he's in that 5'10", 5'11" height range, around 165, 170. Could he get a little bit more meat on his frame? Sure. But when you're looking at somebody in a MAC level school that he's gotten a lot of offers from, Marshall has offered him. You could expect some more mid majors, maybe even some smaller, Big Ten level schools to come on, because he's only ascending. But I don't know. There's so many wide receivers in this area that we've watched that have just been studs, and a lot of those receivers, it kind of linkens me to like a baseball player where they ask, "Are you a 5-tool guy?" Right? And in this situation, it's like, man, how many tools does Jaden Van Pelt really have in his arsenal? And he has all of them. And so I wouldn't say that he is the best boundary threat deep in the area, but he can do it well. Extensive.
More of a slot guy, you think,
I think so. I think he's more of a slot guy at the next level, because he's so great out of the backfield. He's so great in pre-snap motion. Great hands. His route tree's deep. He's got a great double move. He's got a great buzz off the line, great battle with the hands. I mean, there's just nothing bad you can say about him. Then the one thing that you're always going to first is, can he run block? And especially with him, when you start thinking about college level football and how it looks now with so many teams, aside from like your military academies and a few of them being in the old school power run formations, majority of college football now is done in the spread. Can you run block in spread concepts when you're running, outside zone and stuff like that, and jet sweep? And he can, and he is just really aggressive, and it's just fun to watch his film where he's running down the field and finishing blocks, and he wants to pancake somebody like he's a lineman. So high motor.
And what I noticed too, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
What I noticed too on film is he doesn't take plays off.
Never.
Even if he's not the primary target, he still runs his routes hard and cleanly.
And what you hear from so many guys in recruiting departments is, when they're looking at wide receivers first, they're watching the tape and they're going, okay, when was the whistle blown and when was the ball blown dead? And if this dude is still trying to pancake guys half to a second after the whistle's over, he's still violent. I mean, he's inside blocking down, and it's just great to see. His stock blocking on the outside is phenomenal. One of the best players that I've gotten to do a write-up on so far. So super proud of that kid, and I think it's just going to ascend for him.
Who does he remind you of? I mean, if you had to extrapolate to maybe, some of the elite college receivers in the last decade or so, or even NFL guys, is there somebody that when you watch him on film, you could say, wow, he reminds me of a young version of this?
So not really because of like body stature, but just because of like the flow of him over the middle and like in cuts, like Torrey Holt. Mm-hmm. He's not, obviously Torrey Holt was much taller, much longer, and he could do a little bit more stuff vertically, but just like the fluidity and his in-breaking routes, just going over the middle, making sure he's securing the ball. I love the way that he uses his body. When you watch an in or an out-breaking cut, like not only are you trying to get hands to body with that football, but he's using that shoulder to shield, and he's so dependable. So when you have that dependability like that, that's going to get you on the football field in college.
I'll throw a name at you. You reminded me a little bit of Golden Tate.
Oh, nice. Nice call. Yeah.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on this feature?
I just love what Jake just said there, because the first time I saw him was last year, and he's so silky smooth out there on the field. When he's running, it's almost like he's ice skating, not running. I mean, it's just a very fluid. It's really, really pretty to watch. I mean, honestly, that's exactly what I said to myself last year, the first time Jimmy hit him for a touchdown at Snyder, and he just drug both feet in, to get in there on the sideline. It was a sideline catch. But that's the first thing that I thought was, this kid is so smooth out there. It's like, I don't want to say a ballerina, but it's graceful watching him play.
Great way of putting it.
And he gets in and out of his breaks just so fluidly and so beautifully. It really is fun to watch. So certainly want to keep an eye on him and see if those offers keep piling in. I think they will. All right, Jeff, thanks. Let's get off of that to maybe take a quick peek at the standings page and the leaders board. Standings page, any big surprises here for you, Jeff, through 3 weeks?
No, not really. I think all the surprises came in week one. I've kind of come back from all that, but no, I mean, Northrop, like to see what they can do when they're 100% healthy, not having Davis in for a half against Huntington North and then last week against Lures kind of stinks. But
I think
Columbia.
he's supposed to play this week. We might, when we get to the back page, we might talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah.
David Callison is the QB that you're talking about, right, Jeff? And,
no,
they are a different team with him on the field, no doubt about it.
Oh my gosh, not even close. And then I remember what you guys were saying, Jake, in the beginning of the year. Maybe this would not be the greatest season for Columbia City, but man, they look like they are just as good as anybody else in the NEA right now.
Yeah, it's great to see. Obviously, our Eagles have garnered a reputation where it's like, oh, the first 5 weeks are going to win, and then what's going to happen? I will say, I have been pleasantly surprised with the level of tenacity of the offensive line this year and what they've been able to bring, and they're young. So that's like I said, I just felt like I know Fuller is a senior, but I feel like the team is going to be even better next season, just me personally, but they're doing great. And this is a year where I'm really, really excited to getting into Columbia City versus East Noble and seeing what that looks like.
Well, also, and Columbia City fans know this, the schedule is always a little top heavy on the front end as far as the matchups. So I'm sure diehard Eagles fans will say, Mr. Mahoney, let's pump the brakes there a little bit. Let's just pump them. Let's see what happens here in a few weeks, right? But this week is an intriguing one for sure with a much improved Huntington North squad.
145-13 on the season is extremely impressive, and I don't think there's a better point differential in Northeast Indiana than what we see from Columbia City.
It's a heck of a stat.
Yep, for sure. 61 points a week ago against Belmont. I believe their opponents, though, might be 0-9 or 1-8, maybe. I'm just saying.
I did get a chance to talk with a guy who covers a lot of Belmont, Rex Brewer, who does the play-by-play. And, obviously Belmont has not won for a few years. They're still packing the stadium.
Good.
I mean, Woodland was packed last week, and he did say that last year the 8th grade team only lost one game and the 7th grade team went undefeated. So they feel like Coach Hall is the guy for the program, and they also feel like the reserves are coming.
Oh, that makes me happy. Thank you for sharing that, Jeff.
That's great news.
25 losses in a row, whatever it is, and it just starts to take its toll. But I give those kids a lot of credit, Coach Hall and his staff a lot of credit. You talked to Nick Hall, who played on that 2008 state championship team for Belmont, right? Yeah. When you speak with him, he's the most optimistic guy you would never know they're mired in that kind of a losing streak. Yeah. So I agree with you. He is the right guy, and when things turn around, they're going to turn around in a big way, it sounds like, and that's a great shout out. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing that. All right, let's talk leaders. We talked already about those quarterbacks, but again, Eli Tagulis at the top. Hi, Annie. 676 yards through 3 weeks of action. Man, he's lighting it up like a Christmas tree. What are your thoughts on the leaders board this week, Jeff?
I was super impressed with Eli last week at Woodland. He's one of those no wasted movement type of guys, and he just commands the team. Heritage is legit in the ACAC. Callison, give him another game. Would he be at the top of that board right there? And remember, Wayne right now through 3 weeks only has 2 games that you can pull stats from, as that South Bend Riley game got canceled. So that's why you may not see Kemar Nelson, over here in the top rushers. But I love seeing Arroyo. How do you say that last name, Casey?
I think it's Arroyo.
Yeah,
but
he does some running for Lakeland too. I think he's got 4 rushing attempts on the season, but 270 yards through 3 weeks is really, really impressive for that young man.
Look at the race for the receiving lead, Jeff. 270 to 190 from 1 to 10. I mean, this is going to be hotly contested all year, isn't it?
There are so many amazing receivers out there that aren't on this top 10, but I think they will be by week 7. Now you got Jaron Taylor here leading the area with 6 sacks, and his brother, I believe, has like 3 sacks. Like he's right on the cusp of making this list right here. And remember, both of the Taylor boys were at Homestead last year.
Yeah, no, that's a huge acquisition along with Deontay Eskridge in the trenches. Because if there was one big question mark for Bishop Luers, I think entering this year in the offseason, it was, offensive and defensive lines. And man, they've really bolstered, especially on the defensive side. I thought it was funny. D. Hogue, Bishop Lures, I love that kid. He's still touting on social media that he's got 5 picks because he's counting one on a 2-point conversion
from the
And
New
so-
Haven game.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, why not keep working it? So I sent a text yesterday on deadline and to Kyle Lindsay, head coach at Bishop Lures, and defensive coordinator Carson Bradley, who was on the program last week, and said, guys, it says 5 interceptions, but I'm 95% sure it's 4. Can you confirm before we go to press? And I kept pounding them, and Kyle sent me back a text and said, some of us have jobs or something. And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. But he did confirm it was 4, which is still pretty darn impressive through 3 weeks of action. And that kid is a ball hawk.
Yeah, what's also impressive is sitting with 3 is Alan Bolton, I believe, and Landon Fry from Snyder. So those guys are right on the outside looking in too.
Yeah, I mean, Snyder's secondary and their linebackers with Landon in there are going to rack up huge numbers in that regard. Snake, what are your thoughts on this page?
Just Seth Pruitt, 10 tuds, man. Just he's always out there. But it's cool seeing Caden Hinkle up there from DeKalb, just kind of just quietly doing his thing. Lunch pail grinder. Obviously, love seeing Fuller there in the 2 spot. 5 tuds for Columbia City in receptions. 14 yards off the leader, so that's cool to see. 7 total
couple
touchdowns
QBs in there,
yeah,
as well. Hawk Hasselman,
what a great name.
Axton Best, yeah, Hawk Hasselman, maybe the name of the year. What a great name. It's all these races are going to be so much fun.
Yeah, Nathan Foster, Leo, that's a great name to watch right there too.
He runs hard.
And my question is, will Kingley be able to get back to the top there after the performance last week? Because now he's got to make up 157 yards. Well,
the good news is they're playing the Concordia Cadets, which, no disrespect to my cadets, their defense is their weakness of their team for sure. And if you're going to get well running the ball, maybe that's how you do it. And so, like we said earlier, I think Caleb has a monster game tomorrow night.
Yeah, one kid from Concordia that's not weak is Zach Spielman.
I love Spielman.
He ranks number 3 in Northeast Indiana in tackles with 27.
Yeah, the junior linebacker, he's a stud. He's featured on the Concordia page this week. And you're right, Jeff. He is a playmaker. Great name, too. It sounds like a linebacker, doesn't it?
Yes.
All right, let's do some picks real quick, guys. Why don't we start with the featured matchups, and we'll just kind of go back and forth, and we'll try to wrap this up in 5 or 6 minutes. Jeff, why don't you go first? Carroll at Dwenger. Swami said Carroll by 4 touchdowns, 29 points.
No,
that's a lot.
Not going to happen. And I keep thinking about some of the conversations I've had with coaches that some coaches just flat out will not hit during practice, and what a toll that can take on a team, especially when you're going up against a bunch of hard hitters like Dwenger. One of the things that should be said is this past Friday at Northside had a lot of guys getting hurt down on the field in that game. So sometimes you got to take those hits to be prepared for it.
For sure. Snake, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Carroll definitely the favorite, but I'd probably bring it a little closer, maybe 17.
Okay. Well, my concern is, if I'm a Dwenger fan, is the defense, the secondary, that, they have not seen a passing attack. The closest thing they did was Brownsburg, and Brownsburg had their way with the Saints in week 1, running and passing.
Yeah. And plus their starting quarterback should be their starting cornerback. Isn't that correct, Casey?
Well, the jury's still out there. Henry Jordan is technically the starter.
Yeah.
And my understanding is he was out a little bit this week at practice. Of course, he didn't play a week ago against Northside. And then Nick O'Keefe is the starting cornerback, who looks like he might be the starting quarterback again this week. And he's just a sophomore. And the Saints did not call a lot of the play action rollouts and things that they did in the scrimmage against Carroll, and then also against Moeller in week 2, that I thought was pretty effective. If they can get back to some of that offensively and move some chains, they got a shot for sure. I'm not saying they can't win this game, but matchup wise, that would be my concern, is the back end of the Saints defense. I hope that, that they rise up. I want to see those kids do well, but they play a lot of young kids there. And this receiving core, to Jake's point earlier, at Carroll is darn good. So it's an intriguing matchup. And we had Coach Dan Knepper down here from Bishop Dwenger So we kind of got an inside look at what the Saints might be trying. So that'll be a fun one. All right, next one, Concordia at Northside. Jake, I'm coming to you. Swami says Northside by 19. How's that feel?
Yeah, I like it. They're gonna ride the inside zone running game and just pound the rock. And as soon as that gets shut down, they're gonna bounce Newsome outside, and I think that's a great spread.
Jeff, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's right about right. Just inside 3 touchdowns, I think, for Northside. And I'm with you, Casey. I want to see a big game from Jamari Pearson offensively.
It has to happen at some point. I mean, I wouldn't. He needs to have a breakout game, 150 to 200 yards type, and maybe even in the return game as well. He's just too good of a talent not to get more touches and be more impactful on that side of the ball. All right, next one, guys. Huntington North at Columbia City, another fun one. Man, I sure love what the Vikings have done this year. Swami says Columbia City by 14. Jeff, your thoughts?
I'm just going to say 14 and up. I think Columbia City is just going to wear them down with all the different running backs they can throw at them, with the offensive line, even though they're young. 2 years ago, when Columbia City was having all that success, winning championships, their offensive line arguably was the strength of that team. So I like what Jake was saying about Columbia City, and I'm all on the Eagles bus.
How about you, Jake?
I love the spread offense, just not this week. CC by 24.
So you love the spread offense, but not the spread.
Correct.
You're saying the Swami's a little shy.
24.
Okay. We'll see. I would say this about Huntington North. They seem like a dangerous team to me. And
they do.
Columbia City, strength of schedule has not been the best. So I'll just throw that out there. We'll see. It's out at the Eagles' Nest. And Swami says by 14. Next game, South Adams. Jack, for you, those of you who are wondering what that was Jackson over in the corner. He's been muzzled this week. We took his microphone from him. Jackson, every once in a while, we'll chime in just to make sure we're paying attention. South Adams at Heritage. Swami says Heritage by 28. Jake.
It's perfect. I like it.
Jeff?
Yeah, playing in front of the home crowd. They got to hold on to the ball, and I'm sure that was a point of emphasis for Coach Hollinger heading into this week, that they cannot turn the ball over. But, yeah, this is a very good team.
So 35-7, something like that, 42-14. Does that feel about right, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I see South Adams at least 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Lakeland at Garrett. I think we all kind of feel like this could be the game of the week. And certainly could go a long way in determining an NECC champion. Don't tell that to West Noble. Swami says Garrett by 13. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that spread?
Well, you just mentioned West Noble. And Casey, I pulled up, and let me pull this up for you guys, but the sectional there that West Noble would feed into does not have Knox this year, Casey, which means maybe West Noble can get off the snide there and get that sectional championship. So
nice.
There is Garrett, West Noble, Concordia, Angola. I mean, these are some very, very good teams in that sectional, but no Knox.
Yep. And Lakeland. Yep.
Yeah, sorry to take us off course on that.
No, that's okay. I'm glad that's an intriguing point, because Knox has kind of been the roadblock here lately.
But I don't think Garrett's going to win this one by 13. Just because of Lakeland's firepower with the passing attack.
But you like the Railroaders to win?
I do like the Railroaders to win. I think Coach Depew just keeps on grinding out these W's.
How about you, Snake?
Yeah, I agree with the Garrett win. Maybe a touch closer, maybe 9 or 10, but I think you're right. Swami's right in the ballpark.
Okay. Next game on our featured matchups, Cherubusco at Eastside. Jake, I'm going to come to you. Swami's got the Blazers by 12. I have a feeling you're going to take Busco over that.
If Angelo Ionicelli is running the ball for Busco, which we don't know, but we feel like he is, and if Lincoln Carter is under center, which we feel like he is, no matter if smoke screens or not, I'm taking the upset special. Busco Eagles by 1.
Oh, my God. How did
Busco.
he do it?
Let's go, Coach Sade. Coach Blake. Come on, by 1.
Tell me Snake's not angling for a free burger from the Wand, right?
I hope my peeps are listening, because if the Busco Eagles pull this upset, I'm coming down for a Magic Burger.
No doubt. Jeff, your thoughts on this matchup?
This is going to be an East Side W. Poor Cherubusco. Been hard sledding this year. I mean, Casey, we talk about point differentials. They're being outscored by 36 points per game. But also, I don't know that anybody in Class 2A is opened with as tough a schedule as Cherubusco has with Columbia City, Lakeland, and Garrett. But I see this being a very, very tight game with the Blazers. What do you say? They're the B-siders pulling it out.
B-side, yeah. Well, and they're beat up still. I mean, and Lincoln Carter's the big
both
question mark,
sides.
but yeah, they've got some linemen that are questionable for this game too. Yeah, both teams are beat up early in this season, so it could be a battle of attrition for sure. All right, the undercard, a couple games there. Jake, I'll come back to you. One or two that jump out that you want to talk, maybe pull two that you're intrigued by?
Keeping an NE8, DeKalb, East Noble by 10. Man, I think that's a little tighter. I think DeKalb is playing tough. I think I think Huntington North showed a couple of inefficiencies on the East Noble side. So I think East Noble wins the game, but maybe by more, but maybe 3, a little closer matchup there.
Okay.
Man, this is going to sound like the craziest thing of all time. I'm going to go with Jackson Geiger on this one. And we're going to say that Belmont wins by 1 point over the Norwell Knights. And if this happens, absolute pandemonium. Yeah. And one last but not least, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. We the Heights, Prairie Heights by 1. I'm all with it. Coach McCray and the boys going to get it done.
Now that's legit upset special,
it's just going to be a crazy week. I can feel it.
Gosh, Prairie Heights 3-1. How great would that be?
How great would that be?
Yeah, Jeff. What a couple games here that you want to talk about?
Yeah, that East Noble DeKalb game for sure. Nobody's held Caden Hinkle under 120 yards rushing this year, but Dylan Krell and that defense, if anybody can do it in the NE8, it's those guys. Also along with Leo. So that's going to be the question right there. Can they hold him at bay? Maybe not totally shut him down, but keep him under maybe 4 yards a carry. So East Noble by 10, I totally think that they can win that one by 10. Leo by 22 at New Haven. I agree with that one as well. And I love that Norwell by 17. I'm with Jake on that one. Let's get that a lot closer. Let's just get it a lot closer. Norwell by 3.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the top of the undercard. A couple of those SEC
wait a second.
matchups.
Adams Central by 38 over Jay County. Could it be?
Yeah, it could be 35. 5 touchdowns, running clock, third quarter.
I think that one would be a little closer.
Well, it should be. The Fighting Zagundas are playing good football, but man, AC sure looks like they're rounding into shape, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
After the week 1 loss,
they're coming back.
All right, real quick, guys. Wayne at Lures. Swami says Lures by 9. I think that's an intriguing matchup because Wayne, I think the jury is still out on the Generals. It feels like they've got so much potential, and having not had that week 2 game because of the weather, we're just not quite sure what to expect. And they kind of laid an egg a week ago against Homestead. Speaking of Homestead, at Northrop, will David Carlson play? My understanding is he should. If he does, man, they're going to score points. And I think they could put up big numbers against that Homestead defense, and then would have to be, again, a shootout victory for Homestead if that's how that transpires. And then last but not least, Snyder at Southside. I think Snyder, again, heavy favorite in this one. I think running clock in the second half.
Yeah, and the thing about that Homestead matchup is you can run the ball against Northrop. A lot of teams have had success running the ball, just like Northrop did in week 1. Homestead's leading rusher is their quarterback, Thrash, the seniors, their second leading rusher with 82 yards on the season. So will somebody come through or pull through for Homestead and have a big game on the ground?
Yeah, that's an area to watch for sure. Well, guys, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. Another great show episode of Around the Fort. Get out to a game tomorrow night and support your local team. If not, check out Jeff's games on Summit City Sports. And until next week, I'm Casey for Jeff, Jackson, and Jake the Snake, and Archie. And, of course, thank you to Dan Knepper from Bishop Dwenger for joining us. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Have a great week, everyone.
Why choose Kelly Chevrolet? We offer a wide selection of new and used inventory with a team that guides you to your perfect fit. Our certified pre-owned options ensure peace of mind with warranties and rigorous inspections. Competitive pricing, flexible financing, and convenient trade and services, making your dream Chevrolet a reality. Trust our experienced service team to keep your vehicle in top shape and enjoy free car washes as long as you own your vehicle.